Today's show is featuring Florida's very own sandwich, the Cuban. The Cuban sandwich we know and love in Florida did not originate in Cuba. This tasty pressed sandwich was created in Florida in the early 1900s by people who immigrated to Florida through Cuba, mainly Spaniards and Italians. The sandwich was perfected in the culturally rich communities around the cigar factories in Ybor City and West Tampa. So I traveled to the Gulf Coast of Florida to visit the famous West Tampa sandwich shop in search of the perfect Cuban sandwich. Hi everybody, welcome to the Becky and Boca Show. I am here with Andy, the owner of West Tampa Sandwich Shop, and we're here to talk about Florida's own sandwich, the Cuban sandwich.
Correct.
And how many years have you been making these sandwiches here?
Well, my parents started the business over 30 years ago, so I kind of grew up in this making sandwich business.
Okay, and you're going to let us take a look at how these sandwiches
Most
are
definitely,
made.
yeah. What's in a Cuban sandwich is ham, you've got pork, you've got salami, and you've also got Swiss cheese. As far as the condiments that goes on the sandwiches, we put mayonnaise, mustard, pickles. That's the way a Cuban sandwich is. Now, we have our own thing we started years ago, which was basically, we call a honey Cuban. And if you can see up there on the wall, there's a picture of President Obama.
Yes,
Obama,
I know. Obama was here.
He was here. He actually had the honey Cuban, and he liked it. He enjoyed it, and he took some sandwiches back for Secret Service, and they all got honey Cubans. So we kind of just jumped on that bandwagon, and we changed it from the honey Cuban to the Obama.
Where was the Cuban sandwich made originally?
We've got what's the Cuban sandwich in Cuba. We also have what's the Cuban sandwich in Miami, their version of it, which is a different bread, different way of arranging the meats or whatever. And then we had with the Tampa Cuban, which is what our traditional way of making a Cuban sandwich.
And what is it about the bread that makes a Cuban sandwich special?
Well, for us, the Tampa is just about that real authentic Cuban bread. And for me, the best Cuban bread in town is where we get our bread from, which is La Segunda.
Okay, so it's locally made?
It's locally made. They're very, very good. They've been in business over 100 years, and they got one of the best breads, in my opinion, in the state of Florida.
Okay, and it's very thin.
It's very thin. That's what I think is what makes it really, really good. Now, when you go to Miami, they have a different style of bread. So it's kind of, that's the difference between us and them. It's got butter in it. We put butter in the bread like that. And then once you close it, you look at it. And if you look at this part of the bread, the way they create that and the way they do that is by putting palm leaf. Like they pull the palm leaf thing off and they put it on there and it kind of creates that opening.
That's what I had heard. They put the palm leaf in while they're baking the bread,
exactly.
Right? And then they take it out.
Yeah. You don't want to put too much ham on it because it'll be a ham sandwich.
Right.
You don't want to put too little ham because you won't taste the ham. You got to put the right layers of all the ingredients. Enough ham, enough pork, enough Swiss cheese, enough salami. And that kind of gives it a flavor. Then you put butter on top of the bread while you press it, which kind of gives it like a nice little golden look and nice little buttery flavor to it as well.
Is there ever mayonnaise on a Cuban sandwich?
For me, there is.
Yeah?
If you want peanut butter, I'll put peanut butter. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter.
But traditionally?
Traditionally, I think there is. Mayonnaise and mustard, yes. I think there is.
Okay. Because I heard it was just mustard.
Some people, like I said, there's different versions of it. To me, there's mayonnaise and mustard.
My name is Daniel Sanchez from Tampa, Florida.
Okay, and you're going to tell me a little bit about the Cuban sandwich.
The Cuban sandwich, when they first in Ybor City or West Tampa, it was called sandwich misto.
Now, did it originate in Tampa or did it originate somewhere else?
It originated in Tampa.
There's some speculation that it originated in Miami.
No.
Or actually in Cuba.
Miami, it was later on in Miami. It was in Ybor City and West Tampa. That's where you had the two Latin community that had the cigar factories, and the cigar workers worked.
Yes.
If you worked outside of Ybor City or West Tampa, you didn't experience the Latin flavor. And the original Cuban sandwich consists of the ham, the pork ham, and the salami, and the pickle. No lettuce and tomatoes.
No?
And butter.
And butter.
No mustard or
No
mayonnaise.
mustard or mayonnaise.
It was butter. It has to be a Cuban bread, the bread.
Yes.
And it has to be from Tampa because the water in Tampa makes that difference.
I've heard that. I'm here with a long-time customer. Good?
Like always.
Okay. How many years have you been coming here?
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years?
I have.
And you've been eating these Cuban sandwiches
And
for
I
that
have.
length of time. Okay.
And my family and friends. This is where we come.
Yeah.
West Tampa Sandwich Shop.
All right, I'm going to give it a try too. Look how thin and pressed it is. Okay.
That's a traditional Cuban sandwich right there. Nice and hot.
Oh, yeah.
Bread is nice and fresh.
Okay, this is cafe con leche. This is steamed milk. Having this with my Cuban sandwich. And I'm pouring the espresso into the steamed milk. Do you always get the Cuban sandwich when you come here?
Either I'll get the traditional Cuban sandwich, but what they have here is also the honey Cuban.
That's what it
And it's the
says.
same sandwich pressed, but they put the honey on top.
What I really like is how thin the bread is. Because, you know, we all try to avoid carbs, and this just doesn't look like it's a lot of bread there. And it is so easy to eat, it's delicious.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really good. This is called flan. What's in this?
Eggs, milk, and sugar.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me on this episode of the Becky and Boca Show as I brought you to Tampa, Florida to show you the Cuban sandwich. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
See you next week.